It's Friday. Happy Friday to you. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani, along with Jerry Usher. And you, we can't say it enough. You are the key person here at this show. Hi, Jerry. It's Friday. Don't you just love Fridays?
Well, I love Fridays, and this is a very special one for all of us, really. It's the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. But my parish in Palm Desert, California is Sacred Heart, so I went to the 7:45 Mass this morning, and our wonderful pastor, Father Howard Lincoln, who will be installed actually as a Monsignor in November, had the Mass this morning, and just a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, and I've always had an affinity for the precious blood, but when I received communion this morning and then went in line for it, we get it under both species, and when I received the precious blood, it just struck me so much more. This came from the heart of Jesus, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So I know you join me in inviting all of our listeners just to really get to Mass today if you can. If you go to a parish named Sacred Heart, there are indulgences, attached to that. But just go and honor the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which gave so much for all of us.
Yes, I love this day, this feast day. This is near and dear to my mother's heart. She has the picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, gigantic picture right in her entranceway of her home, and she's always had it so that it will always be there, so she can see it at every angle of her family room. And I'll tell you what, Jerry, it's always been something that we grew up with as children in our household, and it is precious, very precious. But when you were just talking about the heart of God, of Jesus, when the Eucharistic miracles, Jerry, when they test those Eucharistic miracles, it comes from the heart muscle. They have identified that it comes from the heart muscle. So, you talk about how intimate that is. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So, yeah, wow, you started off your day great. Your Friday's going great because of that. And you get those indulgences, I presume. So that's really nice as well. Okay, shifting gears. We are talking today about saying no. The two letter word that is very easy. I mean, children pick up on it very quickly. It's one of the first words they learn how to say when they are brought into this world. They know how to say no very easily. But as adults, we struggle with it. So practice with me now. No, that's what we're saying today on Take Two. And why are we saying that? Because it does relate to our spirituality. Jerry, do you want to continue on with this thought? Because I think this is going to be a very active Friday show.
Well, like you said, kids learn that at an early age. N-O says no. N-O spells no. And then we get to be adults and people ask us, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you lend a hand? Can I borrow a few bucks? Hey, can I come over and do my laundry at your house? I mean, we get hit upon for all kinds of things. And, it's great to be able to be generous and charitable and help people out. But sometimes, we just have to take a little bit more of an inventory, Debbie, I think, of, what are our obligations? What are my commitments, first and foremost, to myself, to my family, to my job, to my vocation, to those nearest and closest to me? And then we have to be judicious in how we accept the requests and invitations that are made of us. So, yeah, we want to hear from you. Are you someone who gets kind of sucked easily into just doing all sorts of things, and then you kind of just, you go, oh, man, I didn't have time for this. What am I doing? I got to kick myself. Or are you somebody who has some pretty healthy ability to say, you know what, this is not going to work for me. So let's have a conversation about this.
Here's the number. So weigh in on this, 833-288-3986. That's the number to call and share with us if you have trouble saying the word no to things. And I wrote on our website, Jerry, about how we are socialized as human beings to put others first, to nurture and to help others and to serve. And these are all great things, but they can lead to those negative feelings of when it gets out of balance. And I've done that before, where I've overcommitted myself, and then I'm just frustrated. And see, this is where it kind of goes into our spirituality, because you could actually, with your thoughts or even with your words, cause yourself to sin, because you get so frustrated, so overwhelmed. And see, balance is a good thing, especially in our spiritual lives, and that keeps us everything running smoothly. But here's the thing, Jerry. when you get resentful or frustrated, if you get overwhelmed or overcommitted, then you run the risk of getting the title of a flake. And what I mean by that is you abandon your commitments. You may find excuses or something and you walk away from things that you said yes to. And what happens? Friends, coworkers, family members say, oh, they're flaking out on me again. And that's not a good thing either, because that leaves you with more frustration. So maybe let's start at the beginning. Somebody asks you to do something or want to borrow something or something of that nature, and you are in that awkward place where you really don't want to say yes. You really don't. But you want to be a good Christian and you want to do the right thing. So let's talk about practical ways we can work on saying no politely and in a charitable way. So here's the number. Help us out with this. 833-288-3986.
Yeah, it's our last live show of this week, and we just look forward to you helping us end the week on a very, very, just a great note. You always make the program with your comments, your takes. I mean, I'll tell you, some of the things that you share really opened the eyes of me and Debbie. We and the show team, Rich, Matt, and Jeff, and Debbie and I, after the show, sometimes we kind of regroup and we say, wow, can't believe some of those things that were shared. And so this really, it goes deeper than just kind of really surface. We want to get into what this means and how it impacts our lives. So we're talking about that ability to say a very, very simple word, no. Okay, we always want to say yes if we can, especially to somebody in need. But there are times when we just simply, as Debbie said, we can overcommit. We may have to pull back out of things, or we don't do things as well as we would like because we're rushed or something like that. So what level of ability do you have to really kind of be introspective, when all these requests come at you, and just really to kind of do an inventory and say, do I have time to take this on or not, and then make an informed decision. 833-288-3986, and you'll be one of the first to get on the program. We have a couple of lines still open.
Also, too, this is not on topic, but I just wanted to share this because I just got a text message from Kristen. I talk about Kristen all the time. We grew up together. Today is National Best Friend Day. National Best Friend Day. And Kristen sent me a beautiful text this morning. She says, hope the show goes well today. And she says, happy BFF Day, my sister. So remember I shared, she's more of a sister than she is a best friend, but it's National Best Friend Day. So reach out to your friends and say hello to them and just thank them for their friendship, the gift of their friendship, just like Kristen blessed my day today. So that's pretty cool, Jerry. I didn't know it was I didn't even know there was a National Best Friend Day.
There's a national day for there's usually a national month for everything. Yeah. But that's pretty cool. I'm gonna take that up. I'm gonna reach out to some friends today.
Good. Oh, good. That's wonderful. Okay, phone lines are just starting to fill up. That's great. There's time for you to get in. Please don't say no to us on this one. Say yes. Say yes. I'll pick up the phone. 833-288-3986. Do you have trouble saying no to things or to people? We want to hear how you have worked through that. Give us some practical advice and tools to help us, because I have trouble saying no. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and when we come back, we're going to go right to the phones and hear what you have to say.
The Venerable Fulton John Sheen.
It is a self-evident principle that the Creator has endowed man with certain unalienable rights.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Missing Catholic radio in your area? Heed God's call to get involved and start a Catholic radio station. Contact Jack Williams, 205-795-5756, or email jwilliams@ewtn.com.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Parents in Pittsburgh are outraged with good reason. During a 7th grade science class, a Planned Parenthood partner conducted a graphic sex education class. The teacher is accused with discussing specific aspects of physical intimacy and then asking the students to search for images depicting the discussion on their phones. The teacher cautioned the young students not to search on a school computer that could track their online browsing. One parent said, I protect her, and then she's at school where a grown male is telling a 13-year-old to look it up. Supposedly, a full investigation has been launched. But if this is true, nothing short of firing the teacher and banning the sex ed curriculum would suffice. This isn't an isolated incident. It's typical Planned Parenthood methods.
Like us on Facebook at Life Issues and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Great to have you with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And EWTN Catholic Radio programming continues around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on most affiliates. Some of them, like some AM stations, have to power down and so forth. But generally, EWTN offers the programming 24 hours a day. And on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, maybe you didn't know this because they're on 6 p.m. Eastern Monday through Friday. It's Catholic Answers Live. But they have a best of Catholic Answers Live on Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're busy some of the days during the week and you don't catch the show, maybe Sunday at dinner time or right after dinner, you can kind of kick back in your recliner and catch what you might have missed on Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the best of show on Sunday evenings.
Sweet. I love it. Okay, so let's reset the topic here. We're talking about, do you have trouble saying no? Now, here's how this relates to your spirituality. If you say yes to everything, most likely you're going to be overwhelmed. It's going to be frustrating. You may get resentful. You may feel guilty. All sorts of things that can really be heavy on your heart when you overcommit. So how do you tactfully, gracefully get out of certain things? You still want to be charitable. You still want to be kind. You still want to be, a good Christian. How do you say no politely? And also that's respectfully. So how do you do it? We want to hear from you. Don't get started with your weekend yet. Okay, I know it's Friday. We're all thinking about weekend plans right now. Okay, we need your help right now. What you have to say can help others journey in their Christian faith as well. Okay, so let me give you an example. Jerry, I do have trouble saying no. And I will. This is how I learned to gracefully say no to things. I was watching an Oprah Winfrey show. This is a true statement. In the 1990s, I was watching an Oprah Winfrey show, late 90s. And she talked about, as she got older, she learned how to say no because she would say yes to everything. And it gave her a sense of maturity and freedom to be able to say it. And it's our right to say it because you have to know, like you said, Jerry, you have to take care of your family first, other things first. You can't always, be out there doing everything for everyone. And then there's nothing left, at home. And she said that it comes with a sense of maturity. So at the time I was still relatively young. And so I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to practice this. And then I thought of my mother. My mother was great at saying no, but this is how she used to do it. She used to buy herself some time. She would say no. That would be her first answer. And then she would come back and she'd say, I thought about it some more. And yes, I can babysit. But she'd always say no first. And to buy herself some time to think about if that's really what she wanted to do. And so I started to practice it in really small ways. And I got better and better at it. And I will tell you, Jerry, it did allow me to feel at peace. So the things I did commit to, I was 100% in on. The things that I chose to decline, I did it hopefully in a respectful way. But it was because it was better for my family or something of that nature. I had to take care of the kids and the family first. So I practiced it. But it took a while, and I didn't want to wait till I was Oprah's age. Oprah's a little bit older than me. I didn't want to wait till her age to learn it. So I tried to practice it early on. I don't know if others feel that way, Jerry, but you do have to practice it because it's a difficult thing. How do you have trouble saying no?
Well, I have, yeah. I want to give the phone number out, too, and then I'll share on that because we know that some of you have some takes, some comments, some insights you would like to impart on this. It's a toll-free number. It's 833-288-EWTN or 3986. 833 288-3986, talking about how difficult or maybe easy it is for you to decline when people want to, I don't want to say impose upon you, but turn to you for favors or place requests upon you. There are so many factors here, so 833-288-3986. Debbie, I have had a problem with that in my life, and I think I've come to a much better place in recent years. But for me, and this is just one of the factors, I think one thing that can play into it is a desire to be appreciated, to sort of be affirmed, to have a sense of purpose, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if people ask you to do things and you have that internal fortitude to be able to say no, that's a good thing. But I think sometimes I know I was lacking that, at least at some point, to some degree in my life. And I did find myself a lot of times just overcommitted, and not just overcommitted time-wise, but committing myself to things that afterwards, and even before those things came to pass, I'd be saying, what was I thinking? I don't want to do that, or I don't have time for that, or that's not of any interest to me, or I don't feel God calling me to do that. Mm-hmm. But so I think there's that whole affirmation. I think for me anyway, that was part of it. And it gets at that maturity factor that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Jerry, so let me ask you this question: when you overcommitted and you had those feelings, did you go again? Did you kind of drag yourself into those things that you said you were going to do, or did you kind of flake out? Did you choose that other route where you just made an excuse and said, what, I'm going to abandon that commitment?
No. See, that's the thing with me is I've always, I think because of what drove me to take the commitments, that sense of, wanting to be, not wanting to be looked at negatively or not, wanting to be affirmed or whatever. Obviously I carried through with them, but I'll be honest with you, there were times, probably not a few of them, probably a lot of them, when I would carry out these things. I would do them willingly and happily at the time, but then there would be maybe a little bit of resentment afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Not maybe even at the people who made the request, but at myself. You can kind of turn on ourselves once in a while and say, what was I thinking?
Right,
Why did you take that on?
Or what if you made that effort, Jerry? You made that extra effort and you really did honor your word, and you were your word, and you did what you said you were going to do, and then it wasn't appreciated. Then what? I mean, it's kind of interesting how, you're looking for maybe that validation and that affirmation, and it doesn't come, or it turns out worse. They say no good deed goes unpunished. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Okay, so we're going to go to the phones, but there is an open phone line. Please jump on it if the Spirit is prompting you. We need to hear from you. 833-288-3986. Remember this. This is your show. It's not Jerry and Debbie. It's your show. Take Two is yours. And James knows that, and he's in Augusta, Georgia, listening on St. Paul Radio. He's first up. Hi, James. Thank you so much for calling in and weighing in on this topic. How are you?
Good. You're welcome. So typically I'll say, let me check my schedule and I'll get back with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I do now, James. Go ahead, Debbie. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say, James, did you know that in life skills, that's actually the tools that they give folks to say. So I don't know if you ever taken any of those motivational courses or life skills or corporate trainings, but they say, let me check my schedule. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife and I took the Boundaries course, which, there's a book called Boundaries, and we took the Boundaries course because she definitely has problems with saying no, and my mother-in-law too. And all the people in class got so much out of that class called Boundaries. It's how to set your boundaries.
Right, about setting your boundaries. Well, and James, here's the thing. Women especially, we are very much trained to be nurturers and to take care of things. And so I do think sometimes it's harder for women to say no because we're so used to saying yes to everything. And that's why there's so many women that are, homeroom moms and PTA moms and this and that, and they're coaching and they're raising kids and doing stuff. And that's really tough. And you wear all those many hats and you find yourself really tired, frustrated, and overwhelmed at the end of the day. Has your wife and your mother-in-law learned from these courses, and have they put it into practice?
Oh yeah, Yes, because when she does it, she'll say boundaries, and I won't say the next word, but it starts with a B, boundaries blank with a B, which means she's exceptionally, stuck to her boundaries. And they address that in the book, too, how Christian women in particular, you think it's the Christian thing to do, but you're just going to overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and we're called to make sure we take care of ourselves spiritually, especially with our homes, with ourselves and our homes first. And that's important because we have to fill ourselves up to a degree in order to be able to. It's that empty cup syndrome. You can't pour from an empty cup. So
a priest had told me to take care of God first, yourself second, your spouse third if you have a spouse, and then your kids. And then it goes down to work and those other things. But other people do it reverse and end up getting divorced because of it.
Well, James, I don't know how often you've listened to the program. Let me see. You're on St. Paul Radio. We've been on there for a while. I mean, you may not have been a frequent listener, but I use this analogy often, and this won't be any kind of great revelation to you, but I'm sure you've traveled by air, and the flight attendants come on and they give you that spiel. And what do they say? They say, put your life, your oxygen mask on first, and then assist those around you. And what they mean by that, and I think that applies definitely to this and in the spiritual life, because if we're just doing for others, and not getting that oxygen that we need ourselves, we're going to be of no use to anybody. And of course, in an airplane situation, God forbid, if there was a loss of cabin pressure in an emergency, and the first thing you do is you start saying, here, let me help you all put your masks on. You're going to get maybe one or two people, and pretty soon you're done, and that's all the help you can do. So I really love what he's saying, Debbie, about prioritizing the commitments in our lives, and then using that very, very helpful phrase. I'll check my schedule and get back to you.
Healthy boundaries. Thank you, James, so very much for weighing in. Thanks for not sitting this out, because what you had to say, I'm sure it's helped me. It's helped Jerry. I'm sure it's helped many others. So thank you so much. And now, James, you can get on with the rest of your weekend.
All right,
thanks, James.
Have a good day.
Thank you, James.
833-288-3986. You see how easy and painless it is to be a key part of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking today about saying no. Is it easy for you? Is it hard for you? Have you found yourself maybe improving in that area? Do you set boundaries like James was talking about? Do you kind of give a little pause button when somebody asks you to do something and say, let me even pray about it? Do you pray about these things? 833-288-EWTN. All right, who do we have next?
Dottie in Philadelphia on the Amazon Echo. Hi, Dottie. Thank you so much.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Dottie.
Hi. Well, I've enjoyed your program, and when you were talking, it came to mind. Someone taught me a long time ago, because as a nurse, we tend to say yes because we want to help everybody. But someone said an expression they learned of, say what you mean what you say, just don't say it mean. And I found that has made all the difference. The other thing is that in nursing school, they taught us to always say what makes you ask that question, or let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Because you mentioned that your mom would say no and then think about it. But I just think it's kinder if you say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you, unless you know you can't do it. And then it's fine to just say, I'd love to, but I can't.
Right. Well, that's actually another life skills tool that they impart. They say to say, let me think about it. Now, let me ask you this, Dottie. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being a nurse. I love nurses. I don't know how long you've listened to the show, but I love nurses. And
yeah, I know you do. And it's a wonderful job, vocation, occupation, whatever way you look at it. It's fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, praise God for that, and thank you for your vocation in that. But okay, so back to this idea of saying no. Okay, and this idea of saying, let me think about it. That sounds great, but let me give you a scenario, and you tell me how you would feel about this, because it kind of doesn't sit right with me. All right, if I ask you, Dottie, would you like to go to the movies? Friday afternoon, would you like to go to the movies with me? And you said, let me think about it. Okay. Then you come back to me and you say, okay, I've thought about it and I can't go. In my mind, I'm thinking, gosh, Dottie really doesn't like me as a friend. I mean, that's kind of, right, Dottie?
Well, see, I wouldn't say it that way. I would say I would love to go to the movies with you. Right now, I am so booked that it wouldn't be realistic. But I'd love to do that, or maybe even have a phone chat. Or, again, say what you mean what you say. Just don't say it mean. Now, if I really don't want to go to the movies with that person, I would say something like, "You are so dear to ask me. I'm going to pass on this one."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Dottie, I love that too. And I've heard that, but we've heard that before. Say what you mean what you say, but I've never heard the tag on there. Just don't say it in a mean way. Dottie, God bless you. Thanks for weighing in on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. Of all the commandments, it might seem that we would get this one right. After all, it commands us to rest one day. But so often we're off to our own pursuits. God asks us to take one day to stop, reflect, rejoice, spend time with Him and with our family. But so often we're running everywhere else. It's also a day for worship. The book of Leviticus says, 6 days work shall be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest and a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is the Sabbath of the Lord. And the book of Hebrews says that we should not neglect to meet together, as is a habit of some. And so again, we're asked by God to spend time reflecting and worshiping, and likewise spend time with our family. The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Here's today's quote from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. "Quiet my soul with your gentleness, good Savior. Let me enter into your spirit of gentleness, and let that peaceful attitude permeate my soul with the compassionate understanding I need to be kind and objective." Mother's spiral-bound perpetual calendar features an inspirational message for each day of the year. It's available from the EWTN Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
I'm Gloria Purvis for Brian Patrick. Monday, Monsignor Charles Pope and Don Eden Goldstein on charitable giving on Morning Glory on most of these EWTN stations. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Wow, I learned so much from James's call and Dottie's call, and now we want to hear from you. So please weigh in on this. Do you have trouble saying no, and can you give us some practical advice? We all have trouble having that encounter sometimes, and we need help. That's why we walk together, we lock arms together, and do this together as a Christian family. 833-288-3986. Okay, next up is Paula, and Paula's in State College, Pennsylvania on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Paula. Thanks for waiting, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I just wanted to check. Good, thank you. I'm waiting for my daughter at a lesson, so I don't know how much time because she'll be walking out any minute. But I just had a few thoughts on this during, my lifetime. I'm 60, will be 61, and our youngest is just turned 16. And I think that, I've heard the check the schedule and see if it's a possibility, and I totally agree with that at this stage of my life. That's pretty much what I do because we're pretty busy having a 16-year-old. But one thing that I've learned, that there's a season in life, and I've always tried to honor that and be prayerful about that. So when my kids were little, I really limited things. When they got to school, I would say I can do something, if it fits during the school day, but I can't do things at night. That's family time. So I just didn't do any committee things like that. When they got into high school and they had evening things, they were golfers and they were out, I started doing RCIA and things. And then lo and behold, at 44, I found out we were expecting again, thanks be to God. And I knew that that season had ended and I needed to step back again. And that was kind of hard because I was, going a different pace. But I had to embrace that. But one thing I think that that I've always used is my calendar of white space. I put everything on a planner. And if I look at it, I don't even have to read it. If it doesn't have a good balance of white space, meaning nothing, then I know that that's too much. Because that's when I would find for myself, I would start getting overwhelmed. So, that was a balance for me. But one thing about saying no that I think to be careful of when it comes to faith things, and I'm not talking like PTO and stuff like that because, school like to do a fundraiser or anything. But when I was a new Catholic, my kids were young, we had just moved and I was going to daily mass, and I didn't have a devotion to the Blessed Mother because when I converted, the priest said I didn't have to be a good Catholic, and I said, well, I wasn't raised that way, so it's not going to happen. Well, first week I was there, someone came up to me and said, we need someone to pray for the Rosary Crusade as a substitute. Can you do that? And I'm like, well, how can you say no to prayer? Of course, I'll pray. So I literally had to go look up how to pray a rosary and everything. And I couldn't wait for that 9 days to be over, that novena. And 2 days before it was over, I get a phone call saying, we need a permanent person for that spot. And I'm like, how can I say no? I'm going to do this. So I'm thinking of it in terms of prayer. Well, as time went on, I started wondering more about looking into the Blessed Mother, reading the Mom for everything. I grew to love the Blessed Mother. Well, then years later, I'm at a Catholic Daughters with 100 women, and they announced that the person in charge of the Rosary Crusade can't do it anymore. They need someone. So I'm looking around waiting for one of these 100, women to stand up, and they waited and asked, and no one. And I looked at her and I said, okay, Lord, I don't want to do this, but you're calling me to this, and I've trusted you along the way in this, and you're telling me to take it another step up. And I did. And there's so much more with the Blessed Mother I could tell you about. But had I said no just to those things, because I didn't want to do them, then look what I would have lost or said no to. So it's a tricky thing. I think it's a very personal thing is I guess what I'm saying. It's not just one size fits all and how you respond to it for every person. Does that make sense?
It does, Paula, and I just want to touch upon real quickly, and Debbie may comment, but a couple of things you said. One, you talked about safeguarding that family time at home, and God bless parents, yourself included, and all parents who get involved in their kids' school committees and helping out at on the playground and at lunchtime and all of that, and in the evenings and on school boards and all of that. But I think sometimes there might be, I don't know, I'm not a parent, I've never had kids, but there could be maybe a felt obligation. I know some schools require a certain number of hours, volunteer hours by parents to get maybe a tuition deduction or something. But there can still beyond that be almost this sense of obligation on the part of parents, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. But you said you wanted to also make sure that. But I also love what you said about keeping the white space on your calendar, because I think so many of us, we keep the online calendars or desktop calendars, in writing or something, and we tend to look at those and say, oh, I've got too many open spots there. I got to fill those, And your solution to that is no, I need to leave those open there so that I have time for me and for things that might come up and stuff. So Debbie, I don't know if you want to tack on anything.
Well, I just want to say real quickly, Paula, I learned so much from your life experience. I'm the same way. I actually keep a manual day timer. Everybody knows I'm like the queen of notebooks. I have a manual day timer. I don't have an online calendar. And I love when I see white space. I love it. And yeah, so I'm right with you on that. But the other thing I just wanted to key in on about the Blessed Mother and how you were kind of sort of forced into this role of prayer, and then it led to your relationship, your fostering the relationship with you and the Blessed Mother. That's very interesting, because so many times when we do these, when we do commit to things, and we're kind of reluctant because we have so many things pressing us from another direction, it probably would be good to go into it with a frame of mind of, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Because look at your example. I mean, that is huge. now you have this great relationship with the Blessed Mother, all because you were basically forced into a prayer, being a lead for a prayer team. And that's a big thing. And most people would have said, I'm not doing it. I'm not prepared. But like you said, you went and researched it. You found out how to do it. You went through the 9 days, and then look what happened. So that's really interesting. But you're right. I think it is personal. I think it's not a one size fits all. But I love that, because I have certain commitments that I know I really do. I just have to do them. And I'm going to approach it with a different mindset of what can I learn from this, because based on your example. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to part? You said I think you're waiting for your daughter, right?
Yeah, she just walked by with her horse, so she'll be here in a minute. She's taking him out to pasture.
Oh, cool.
But I think attitude, like you said, I always tell my kids, if you're going to do it with a good attitude. Otherwise, you're not doing anyone a favor, yourself or the person or whatever. You have to do that. So, and there are times when, if you really see it's too much, again, you need to talk with that person or group. Because I was also a teacher when my daughter was in grade school. I am an art teacher, and I taught at her school. And so, it was easy to become overloaded with things, and I saw people. So I appreciate that, because we couldn't do it without parents, and we need that. But I just think, that moderation and taking care of your family. And luckily, I taught at a Catholic school that really honored that and helped parents with it. So I think if you're in a Catholic organization, then hopefully they will understand and help you too, because they want the best for you.
Right.
Very good.
And not be upset if you can't do it.
Yeah.
You're a wise woman, Paula, and you are also very generous with your time. You're prudent, but you're very generous, too. I think you've struck a good balance with that, and you've taught us a lot here. Thank you so much, Paula, for calling in from State College, Pennsylvania on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And Rebecca is next, listening on Covenant Radio in St. Louis. We go to Rebecca, listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. How are you?
Doing well. How are you on this Friday? Yep, we're here.
Oh, I'm doing well. I was just thinking about the fact that, this is something I've been struggling with for a long time, is learning to say no. And I actually have a very good friend who moved close to us a few years ago, and she's somebody who likes to do things spontaneously and not really make plans and do things a lot. And I had to learn, as much as I love spending time with her, I had to learn how to say no, because it was I was saying yes and not really meaning it, and so that's not really honest. But also, it was something that sort of I've been thinking about lately is I wonder if this saying no is more difficult for certain people depending on where they live or where they were raised, because I was raised in the South. And so for me, it almost seems like a cultural thing that you're not supposed to say no. But I live in the Midwest now, and I've noticed that people here are very kind, wonderful people, but they definitely don't mind saying no as much. So I do wonder if that's part of it, too, is a cultural thing.
Well, that is a very intriguing question, Rebecca. And I would say this. I think you're definitely onto something. That when we go to different regions of this country, and I would have to say probably different countries of the world, you're going to find different attitudes and philosophies and approaches to this. And you're right. Among all the regions of our country, for example, in the South, I am just overwhelmed every time I go there. And Debbie will vouch for this. It's always yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, no, sir, no, yeah, absolutely, ma'am, sir. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And I think that is part of that Southern charm. But I think we need to take, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we need to take a step back from that particular aspect of this and look at it. I think we're looking at more of the objective, question of being able to say no. I don't know that Southern charm and hospitality, maybe they don't say no as often as people in other parts of the country. I don't know, but I think there's kind of two different little animals here that we're talking about. Debbie, would you agree with that?
Well, Yeah, I would agree. And I just wanted to say that one of my New Jersey friends just weighed in via text, and she just said, Rebecca is right. And so she actually my friend was born and raised in New Jersey, and then is now raising her family in the South. And she said, Rebecca is right. So regionally, there could be those differences. It seems, interestingly enough, I think that when we are faced with it depends on the situation. Maybe with strangers, Rebecca, we're able to say no more easily. When it's with friends, like you said, your friend is a spontaneous person and you want to, obviously you want to keep that friendship. You want to nurture that friendship, but you had to strike that balance. And Rebecca, I think sometimes that it depends on the situation. I do think it does. It can also play a factor in regional where we've grew up, even around the world. I mean, there's different cultures that I guess can say no easily, or maybe you don't even ask them because it would be culturally not correct. But here's the thing. I go back to what I learned when I watched this Oprah show. She said that it comes with maturity to be able to gauge each situation and know what is best for both parties, and what's best for yourself, what's going to be the most productive, and it's going to be the most agreeable for all parties concerned. And so I think that comes with a sense of maturity. Now, children have no problem saying no. We know that. Infants say no so quickly, but they say no to everything because that's their power word. Okay? We've lost that as we've grown up because of what Jerry said. We want to be accepted, we want to be affirmed, we want to be appreciated. So I'm kind of dancing all around here, Rebecca, but I'm getting a lot of text messages weighing in. A lot of folks are voting for you, saying you're right on about that. So do you want to comment on anything we said?
Oh no, you're making great points, and I think that it's just, you're right. We just want to, as we get older, we want to please other people, and we want to help people, and I think you have to strike a balance. I think sometimes you're forced into it, and for me, being raised in the South and culturally, it was just expected that you are just very, and this is a good and a bad thing. I mean, it can be a bad thing if you allow it to overtake your life, but it's a good thing too. But because of that, I was forced, because of my friendship with this lovely person, I was forced to have to set up boundaries because I did have to put my family first, my husband and my child. So anyway, it was just... Yeah, but it is an interesting thing, I think.
How did your friend take it, Rebecca? I'm just curious, because you said she's very spontaneous. Did she go on to another friend, or did she respect that and just kind of tailor it a bit?
She is my best friend. She's wonderful. But this is why I was thinking of this. She's actually from the Midwest. So she's much more blunt than I am, and she had no problem when I said no. And that was the thing. I was so worried about her getting offended because I feel like I was raised around people who would probably get offended, and she wasn't, because for her, being raised where she was raised, she just like, oh, okay, you can't do it today. It's totally fine. And it just kind of woke me up like, oh, this is not how everyone is.
Right. Well, yeah, growing up in New Jersey, we had no problem with saying no to one another. It was an easy thing. And so, that's very true, Rebecca. Most people, we just want to hear the truth. We're okay with it. I would rather have somebody say to me, no, than to say yes, and then I know they're walking away shaking their head going, why did I just say yes? So yeah, that's really interesting. Rebecca, thank you so much. You really added to this discussion today and really helped us, and you shaped this for all of us, and we learned from it. So thank you for that, Rebecca.
Appreciate hearing from you. Michael, you're going to be up in just a second here. Before we do that, I want to tell you about EWTN Radio Classics. It's another channel of EWTN Radio. Would you believe that they have EWTN has so many different ways for you to get the Catholic faith brought to you? TV, this radio channel, of course, National Catholic Register, Catholic News Agency, EWTN News Nightly Publishing. But also, if you're kind of fond of the the shows that aired maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, and some of your favorites, including Mother Angelica, and there are Patrick Madrid files in there, and of course the late Father Benedict Groeschel, and many, many more. You'll find those online at EWTNradio.net and also on the EWTN app. So you're never without anything that you want to access on EWTN. So check it out. EWTN Radio Classics at EWTNradio.net and on the app.
Okay. Next up is Michael in Chicago, Illinois. And Michael's been waiting so patiently. Michael, you got our Virtual Patience Award. Congratulations, Michael, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the air. I got to be honest, I was thinking of saying no and hanging up as I was waiting. But it's a great topic, how to set up proper boundaries. And I recall when I first entered my career about 7 years ago, another senior colleague said, "Welcome to the job, to the business, and you have to learn how to say no. It's going to be busy. So look in the mirror and practice and just say no, 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 no." And, well, it sounds kind of conflicting at other times because we hear about Mary, and she is known for having said yes. And so Mary says yes, and Fulton Sheen says, use your energy. The more energy you use, the more energy you have. So spend yourself. And other spiritualities say, God first, the other second, and you third. And so sometimes that can be conflicting. And but so I think also to look at the other end as to why people have so many demands on other people. And a lot of it has to do with the abundance that we have in our culture. It's just the resources are endless and at our fingertips and immediate with technology. And so we want things and we want it all and we want it right now. And sometimes we lose sight of not objectifying the other person and making so many demands on the other person. So on the other end of that coin is not just me saying no, but others understanding not to demand and ask for so much. At the same time, there's...
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I believe religion preserves our freedom. So if we look at the Israelites in slavery, they just wanted to go out for 3 days and worship. And they were accused of being lazy, of not wanting to work. And it was when we put God first, when we put Sunday Mass first and prayer first, we draw a line to the world and tell them not to cross this line. We preserve our freedom. Religion liberates us and preserves the freedom of mankind. And so just going and just drawing the line, when we fill our schedule with God, it limits a lot of other things that we want to do or people demand on us. So I just believe religion preserves our freedom as well.
Well, Michael, the one thing, you've said so many very wise things, and thank you for your patience, for not saying no, but for saying yes and holding on the line there, and for referencing our Blessed Mother and, of course, her fiat, her yes to God. But the one thing that you pointed out that really I hadn't thought of, and it hadn't come up on the show yet today, is sometimes our saying yes or no to others is contingent upon sometimes the barrage of requests that we get from others. And I think you touched on a good point. We live in such a culture that's just saturated with things and with doing and with activity and distractions that sometimes, people, we realize all the things maybe I want to do or I want to have or I want to accomplish, I can't do them all myself, so I'm just going to reel in all of these other people to help me do that. And so, Debbie, I think he makes a good point that we all could be a little bit reflective on, what it is that we want in life and the things and the activities and all that, and be a little bit respectful, a little bit more respectful of when we do place requests and demands on others.
Yeah, I think that was just wise words from you, Michael. I took so many notes from your call. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you got the Virtual Patience Award because you really imparted really pearls of wisdom and great insights. So thank you for that, Michael. We really appreciate it. Call anytime. We value your call very, very much. It helped us today. So thank you for that. Wow. Jerry, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, why not?
Mary. Okay, Mary in Jerome, Michigan on Good Shepherd Radio. Mary, you're going to finish us today on Take Two. Hi, Mary.
Hello.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. My situation was in trying to decide whether to say yes or no when people approached me for money on the street. I had two different things happen. About a couple of years ago, I was in the vestibule of church getting ready to go to a daily noon mass, and a woman approached me a little bit frantic, saying that her baby was going to be having heart surgery soon, and she was in a motel. She had to come to our town for help, and she was in a motel and to get the baby taken care of, and she didn't have money for the medication she needed for the baby, and it was like between going in and going to mass or being late, and I thought, well, I'm going to help this lady. And so I had her follow me out to the parking lot, and I knew I had $20 stashed in my glove box. So I got into my car, I got her the money, and then she asked for my phone number, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I gave it to her. And so then after she left, and I got into mass a little bit late, but I went through mass, and then I went over to the church secretary, and I had this kind of feeling like, oops, maybe I didn't do the right thing. So I went to the school, to the church secretary, and she told me that this was somebody that hangs around a lot, and she's a scammer, and she asks for money a lot. And I thought, well, I gave it to God, like the old Irish saying, it's gone to God, to hell with it, That was a joke my mother used to tell. But anyways, then that was a few years ago. So I thought I'd learned my lesson, and then just this 2 Sundays ago, I came out of the Latin Mass at our downtown church, and two of my people that I know, I'm single now. My husband died 2 years ago, and I have 6 children, but they've all moved away. So I find myself at Mass alone a lot. And these other 2 people, similar situations. And so we were just kind of chatting a little bit after Mass, and a gentleman approached us and said, it was like the same story again, I've lost my place to live. I
We got about 15 seconds, Mary. About 15 seconds, if you can. Yeah.
So he said, he asked for money, and I said, and then he said, well, if you can't give me money, pray for me. And I said, well, let's pray right now. So we all held hands and we prayed, and I prayed for his situation, and then I said, Lord, if you need us to give this man money, let's touch our hearts. So I immediately looked into my phone where I keep $20, and there was no money in there, and I always keep $20 in there. But so he walked away with me, and I apologized, and when I got in the car, it was sitting on the seat. But he had gone away. So sometimes the Lord says no in funny ways, and he helps us out.
That's right, Mary. Well, thank you for your beautiful, beautiful giving heart. And I've had the same experiences. And one thing I have learned, it's really a tough call when you get the panhandlers and the people begging and so forth. But one thing I learned a long time ago, if they come up to you and they've got this polished, scripted story, to me, it's no deal. I'll pray for you, but, and then I've learned the same thing. I've had people tell me, they're here all the time and it's the same story. And I'm not being critical of those who are down and out, but I'm saying there are some people who are there to take advantage of you. So you got to be a little bit prayerful about that, Mary. And it sounds like you've come to that place. So thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Karis, you have some great comments. Please email us, take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com. So sorry we couldn't get to all of you, but on Monday we're talking about kindness. Have we lost this idea of being kind to one another? Just watch secular media and you'll see there's not much kindness. So we're going to be talking about that on Monday. Have a